Rachel.
Hi, Brittany.
We are back with another episode of The Way the World Works. And today we're going to be talking about foreign policy. And specifically what I want to talk about, what?
FOPO.
FOPO? Is that the new, is that what we're calling it? That's what the cool kids are calling it. I'm not a cool kid, so see, I wouldn't have known that.
Just stick with me. I'll show you the ropes.
She's got teenagers, so she knows all the cool things, all those
it's all the rage, FOPO.
Hip things the youths are saying. But I want to talk about the best kind of foreign policy. And you might think like, oh, there are different kinds, and there are. And there's, I mean, starting in at basics, there's two kinds of principles, and that is interventionists and non-interventionists. And think about intervention, intervening, getting involved in things, and non-interventionist, not doing any of these things, right? Kind of staying out of it. Now, Rachel, if you see a group of kids fighting and you're not really involved and you're not really going to help anything, it's really not your responsibility, especially if they're bigger kids. Let's say they're years older than you. Let's say you're in kindergarten and these kids are in junior high. It's really not your responsibility to go break that up, right? Would you say that that's fair?
Yeah, I would say probably non-intervention would be the most successful foreign policy there.
But if someone comes up and pushes you.
Yeah. Then you got to defend yourself if you can, the best you can.
The best you can. But no, those are extremes. Obviously, the best way to deal with any conflict would be not to ever have to get to a point where pushing and shoving is happening. And in our world today, we've almost forgotten that that's an option. And you're going to hear a lot. Now, Rachel and I are recording this just before Christmas. It's December 16th today. Spoiler alert, the magic happens sometimes weeks before we air. But when you hear this, it'll probably be about February. So let's hope nothing terrible has happened. But right now you're hearing a lot about Russia, and we're hearing a lot about nuclear war. And that's scary. It's scary for kids of all ages. It's scary for parents. It's scary for everybody. It's a scary, unknown thing. But what scares me even more than the idea of these big bombs and these big weapons are the fact that there are governments that are so quick to threaten force and to intervene. You had President Biden basically, so he told Ukraine that they were good to use these weapons that we gave them against Russia, which is, in foreign policy terms, to Russia, that's as good as us saying we're going to hit you with a bomb. And so it's that poking the bear. It's that poking the bear. And so that's, Rachel, that's asking for violence almost. I mean, that's not using our communication skills.
Use your words. Use your words, Joe Biden. That kind of thing is scary. On the other hand, you'll hear people talk about isolationism.
That's a good point.
And a lot of times they confuse non-interventionism with isolationism.
They did that with Ron Paul all the time.
Yeah. And in fact, it's the opposite. When you're a non-interventionist, you're respecting the other country to determine how they want to rule themselves. You're not getting involved, but you're also very open to trade.
Which is the best thing.
Yes. But when you're an isolationist, I think North Korea is probably a good example. Yeah. They neither want to talk to anybody, nor do they want to trade with anybody. They're kind of an island.
Occasionally they will threaten.
Yeah, they're kind of an island unto themselves. And that's not good either. You want to learn how to interact peacefully with your neighbors in the world. And that's non-interventionism. But when you're intervening all the time and starting color revolutions in other countries, then they're probably going to get a little upset with you and maybe hit you back.
Blowback, which is a very important term that I'll be honest is a term that kind of got me interested in foreign policy. And I've said this before, the listeners probably, if you've been listening, you know this, I used to be very pro-war. And that was because after 9/11, I didn't understand what was happening. And so I thought, absolutely, we need to go. They hate us for our freedoms. We have to go bomb them, USA. And I do love my country when the country, I don't love my government. I love my country. Let me say it that way. But it wasn't about that, right? I did not realize, that if you poke something over and over again, that thing is probably going to want to poke you back. And that we have been playing world police. Go on, Rachel. Say it, please. Look at you.
And I will say that your instinct was correct. However, you might have been lied to about the facts. And maybe that misunderstanding.
The government lied to us about the facts?
Oh, sometimes. Sometimes you got to be very careful, and you got to understand that incentives matter. And there's a lot of people that, unfortunately, they make a lot of money from war. Can you believe that?
The military-industrial complex is what we call that.
Yeah, there's people who make the bombs, people who make the airplanes, and those people get government contracts for millions and billions of dollars. And sometimes, unfortunately, those people want to go to war, and they might tell a few lies in order to get other people to want to go to war as well. So you got to be really careful who you listen to and understand that incentives matter. And maybe why might they, like, would it maybe benefit them if there was a war? Who benefits?
That's what's interesting about that, as you were saying that, it kind of reminded me that it's almost like a perverse eye pencil. We talk about how great eye pencil is because somebody had to get the wood to make the pencil and the rubber to make it. And it's this beautiful thing that people needs and it creates value. And I'm thinking the military industrial complex is like this opposite shadow version of that, right? Someone has to make that. It's like war is the product, war is the pencil, right? So somebody has to make the bomb, somebody has to make the drones. And it's like all these different people working together to create the worst thing in the world, not this amazing pencil.
But if somebody does really attack us, like if somebody was going to invade us, obviously we'd want to defend ourselves, and
just
we would
like
need
someone pushing
soldiers
you on the playground
to do that. Yeah, like we would want to defend ourselves and all that would entail. However, you just need to be careful. Is that really what's happening? Is the official story really the truth, or is there maybe something else going on? So libertarians like to be a little skeptical.
I think, and not just libertarians these days. I think we're seeing more so than ever, people are skeptical. People, especially post-COVID, are saying, what? What just happened? What have I been told? And that's why I think it's exciting, because it's fun to now, like, as you said, we've had these libertarians, we've been questioning things forever, and it's fun to see everyone kind of coming to that conclusion. I want to talk about now. We talked about what not to do. I want to talk about what we should do. And regardless, because again, we are, Rachel and I are libertarians, so we're very skeptical of anybody in office. And so I don't want to say like no president is going to be absolutely good. No everyone, if you're in government, is going to be bad. But one thing that I will say is to have a president, and Trump is not in office yet, but who is willing, or at least says he's willing, to sit down with other leaders and talk to them before we go to war. A lot of people are accusing him of, oh, well, let's talk about Russia. They'll say, oh, he wants to sit down with Russia. He's in, Russia's pocket. He'll do what Russia says. That's dangerous. Why are we, this man is, not for America. He's for Russia. And it's so funny to me because at the end of the day, sitting down with another leader like Putin is allowing us to avoid death. And any person, in my opinion, because I am an individualist, any death of one person is a death that is tragic and is a loss of life, and that we should ache for as people. And so we should use every tool in our toolbox to sit down and talk to people, even the worst people, and maybe not in our real life, so we don't have to talk to the worst people. If there's a really terrible neighbor, you don't have to talk to them. But when you're talking about foreign policy in the political stage, we have to exist together. We have to.
Sometimes you need to talk to that terrible neighbor. Sometimes it's better than the alternative.
Which is probably calling the police, or...
It's better than calling the police.
You're right.
I have a neighbor here in my neighborhood who calls the police on his neighbor all the time. Oh, no. And my mom is friends with both of them. She lives in the same neighborhood. She's friends with everybody. And I think that's the best way to be. Rather than, talking behind people's back and, tearing down their yard sign and calling the police when they have an extra car in their driveway for an hour because a friend has come, stupid things. It's so much better we can just talk.
And I like you compared it to, go on.
Even if we're not the best of friends, even if they're kind of a jerk, talking is better than...
Because you still have to live in your neighborhood together, and we still have to live in the world, you know, together on the planet. And which is why, you know, trade, Frederick Bastiat, my favorite economist, you know, he said, if goods don't cross borders, armies will. And that means, you know, if... In sum, what we could say is if you trade together and you're offering goods, that's going to stop people from fighting because you're going to be trading all these things. And imagine if we did that instead of presidents doing sanctions or blockades where they stop trade, which we did with Russia. We stopped trade with them. Of course, they're going to be angry.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if you're in my neighborhood and you have that difficult neighbor, but they buy lemonade from your lemonade stand.
That's
or they
great.
buy eggs from your chickens, and you actually make a good amount of money from the eggs and the lemonade that they buy. You're less likely to you know, tear down their yard sign or do mean things.
And they're less likely to maybe call the police on you for silly things, right? Because there's that.
Of course. Yeah. Nobody in our audience would ever do a mean thing.
No.
I know that.
No, I hope not. I hope not. But that's you know, what's going on with Russia right now. And it's interesting because, and again, this is December. I don't know what has happened in between now and February. I cannot tell the future, shockingly enough. But at least currently, you know, Putin has said, I'm looking forward to sitting down with Trump and to talking things out. Whether or not that happens, again, Rachel and I, we don't know. I hope that it does. But even the fact that that's a conversation about sitting down at a table and talking, I think is very hopeful.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. I think it's ideal because we are all doomed for self-destruction. I hate to say, sorry to be so scary, but if we can't get along with each other, you know, and we don't have to, what is, I'm trying to think, you know, your parents or your teacher will say, you know, like, you don't have to be friends. You just have to coexist kind of thing.
Yeah, and when Trump went to North Korea, when he crossed the demilitarized zone, like, nobody likes that guy, Kim Jong-un. Nobody likes him. Nobody thinks he's a great guy. He's not. The fact that Trump would go shake his hand and talk to him, it kind of softens any nefarious action. Nefarious, that's a good word.
That's
Evil.
a good word. Yeah, I like
any nefarious action that he might be contemplating. It makes him less likely to do bad things.
I like giving our listeners little homework assignments, and I think see if you can use
homework.
Nefarious in a sentence. Don't call any of your brothers and sisters nefarious. That might not go over well.
But they might be, Brittany. Call a spade a spade.
Well, we will leave it there. But I really, you know, one thing we love about this podcast is we want to give you guys as families little nuggets to talk about, you know, plant these little seeds. We don't want to give you, you know, the reason that these are shorter episodes is we want you to take what we say and maybe you disagree with it. You want to talk about that. Maybe you have a different point, but to really start conversations, you know, whether it's in the car or while you're eating dinner, something to get these conversations started. I think a lot of you know I used to be a teacher for third grade at a private school that was actually very focused on constitutional law and property rights and things like that. So it was a really fun school. But so I love these conversations. You know, I've watched Rachel with her boys. She loves these conversations too. So it's fun for us. And you know, again, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what will have happened globally in February when this airs, which is kind of interesting. So hopefully this episode is not only applicable, but evergreen, but not only that, but that maybe even more progress has been made and that we are an inch closer to being a peaceful world. So we'll leave it there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast, share it with your friends, ask Rachel and I questions. Please reach out to us.
Share it with your enemies.
Share with your enemies. That's because we need to coexist with them. It all comes full circle, everybody. So until next time, Rachel, we'll talk to you later.
Till next time.